The Hebrew Bible contains a few passages where Yahweh battles a creature called Leviathan. In the last video, we saw how Leviathan is an echo of earlier Chaoskampf myths. Most importantly, the Canaanite myth found in the Ugarit texts. Of course, Jehovah's Witnesses believe the Bible is inspired by God and historically accurate. Acknowledging that Genesis or Psalms echo motifs from older myths, like the Baal cycle, or that Yahweh's victory over the sea reflects an older Chaoskampf tradition, would undermine their claim that the Bible is entirely original, free of myth, and fundamentally different from surrounding religions. Jehovah's Witnesses don't directly engage with the scholarship on Leviathan unless it is on their side of the argument. But their insight on the Scriptures article on Leviathan is worth examining. Here are some quotes.
The description of Leviathan at Job 41 verse 134 aptly fits the crocodile, and the sea of verse 31 may refer to a river such as the Nile or another body of fresh water. It should be noted, however, that some crocodiles, as the Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, are found along the seacoast and at times go out into the sea some distance from land.
It is true, some have concluded that Leviathan is a crocodile. However, while plausible, this is a limited view. Many scholars reject the crocodile identification due to mythic traits in Job 41. It's more likely Leviathan is a cosmic chaos monster, not merely a real animal. Scholars, especially those informed by ancient Near Eastern mythology, see Leviathan in Job as a mythic sea monster, possibly with supernatural features. Fire-breathing, see Job 41, is clearly not crocodilian. Leviathan is untamable by humans, unlike crocodiles, which were hunted and even mummified in Egypt.
Psalm 74 describes God's record of salvation for his people, and verses 13 and 14 refer symbolically to his deliverance of Israel from Egypt. Here the term sea monsters, Hebrew, than-ninim, plural of tan-nin, is used as a parallel expression to Leviathan, and the crushing of the heads of Leviathan may well refer to the crushing defeat administered to Pharaoh and his army at the time of the Exodus. The Aramaic Targums here give the strong ones of Pharaoh in place of the heads of Leviathan. Compare Ezekiel 29 verse 3-5, where Pharaoh is likened to a great sea monster in the midst of the Nile canals. Also Ezekiel 32 verse 2. Isaiah 27 verse 1 apparently employs Leviathan, LXX the dragon, as a symbol of an empire, an organization that is international in scope and that is dominated by one who himself is referred to as serpent and dragon. Revelation 12 verse 9. The prophecy is one of restoration for Israel, and therefore Jehovah's turning attention to Leviathan must include Babylon. However, verses 12 and 13 consider Assyria and Egypt as well. So, Leviathan here evidently refers to an international organization or empire that is in opposition to Jehovah and his worshippers.
First, Isaiah 27 verses 12 to 13 refer to Assyria and Egypt, major political entities in Israel's history, and speaks of exiles returning, consistent with a restoration theme. This does not require that Leviathan be a composite symbol of all empires. It's more likely that the restoration motif is separate from the chaos monster motif in verse 1, though both relate to divine triumph. The claim about Leviathan representing Pharaoh is textually and traditionally supported. Both ancient Jewish sources and modern scholars acknowledge this symbolic possibility. However, the claim about Leviathan in Isaiah 27 representing an organization or empire is purely theological. Most biblical scholars view Leviathan in Isaiah 27 as a symbolic representation of chaos or cosmic evil, not a literal empire. This is consistent with its mythological background in ancient Near Eastern literature, where sea monsters like Lotan or Tiamat represent chaotic forces subdued by a god. Isaiah 27 verse 1, as part of a poetic apocalyptic oracle, seems to depict Yahweh's eschatological victory over chaos, often symbolized by the sea and monsters within it. Some scholars also think Leviathan may function here as a metaphor for political powers hostile to Israel, but this is not always specific or systematic. The description of Satan as a serpent and dragon in Revelation 12 verse 9 is certainly a callback to Leviathan in Isaiah 27. But while Revelation connects the dragon with political powers, Isaiah itself does not make this identification. It is the author of Revelation who is using the Leviathan and Chaoskampf myth imagery to describe Satan, and thus they connect Satan to Leviathan. The dragon in Revelation has 7 heads, and Lotan has 7 heads. Leviathan, we are told, has multiple heads. Leviathan is basically Lotan. In contrast, we are never told that the serpent in the garden in Genesis is connected with water, or that it has multiple heads. Genesis never mentions the name Satan. There is more evidence for a connection between Satan and Leviathan than there is for a connection between Satan and the serpent in the garden. While the serpent in the garden certainly tricked Eve, it didn't lie. It just didn't necessarily tell the whole story, just as Jehovah's Witnesses won't tell you about the mythical roots of Leviathan. Don't forget to check the other resources in the description.